My name is Amelia Fletcher. I am 25 years old, and I live in Washington, D.C. The Christmas turkey was still steaming on the table when my father tried to destroy my future. It was Christmas Eve. The lights on the tree were twinkling behind him, but the air in the dining room felt heavy and cold. "You are grounded, Amelia," my father said. His voice was low and dangerous. He didn't look at me. He looked at my brother, Dylan, to make sure he was happy. "You are not going back to school. You are not seeing your friends. You are staying in this house until you publicly apologize to your brother for provoking him." My mother nodded in agreement. She always agreed with him. They wanted me to say sorry for something I didn't do. They wanted me to lie to protect their perfect son. In the past, I would have begged. I would have cried. I would have tried to explain that Dylan was the one who started the fight. But tonight, I felt something different. I felt cold and sharp like ice. I looked at my father. I looked at Dylan's smirk. "All right," I said softly. The room went dead silent. My calm voice scared them more than my screaming ever did. They thought they had trapped me. They didn't know I had already packed my bags. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Amelia Fletcher. I am 25 years old. I introduced myself to silence at a very young age. I learned that silence was safer than speaking. If I spoke, I was interrupting. If I laughed, I was too loud. If I cried, I was dramatic. But if I was silent, I was invisible. And being invisible was the only way to survive in a house that was built for my brother, Dylan. Dylan was 2 years older than me. From the moment he was born, he was the center of my parents' universe. He was their son, and they orbited around him with desperate devotion. I was just a small, cold planet on the very edge of the solar system, drifting in the dark. It wasn't that they hated me. Hate requires energy. Hate requires passion. My parents didn't have enough energy left over for me to hate me. They just tolerated me. I was a guest in my own home, a guest who had stayed too long. I remember my 10th birthday. I had asked for a specific book set about history. I loved reading. Reading was my escape. I could go to other worlds where justice existed, where good people won, where children were loved. I woke up early, excited. I ran downstairs to the kitchen. The kitchen was empty. There were no balloons. There was no stack of pancakes like Dylan got on his birthday. There was just a note on the counter. "Dylan sprained his ankle at soccer practice this morning, taking him to urgent care. There is cereal in the pantry." I stood there in my pajamas, holding the note. The paper shook in my hand. It was my birthday. I was 10 years old. I wanted to cry, but I knew better. Crying didn't bring them back. Crying just made my eyes puffy and gave me a headache. So I ate a bowl of dry cereal. I washed the bowl. I put it away. When they came home 4 hours later, Dylan was on crutches, smiling like a king on a throne. My mother was fussing over him, getting him pillows, making him hot chocolate. My father was carrying Dylan's backpack. "Happy birthday, Amelia," my mother said distractedly, not even looking at me. She was fluffing a pillow for Dylan's foot. "We'll order pizza later. Dylan is in too much pain to go out for dinner." "Okay," I said. "And don't be loud," my father added. "He needs to rest." That was the pattern. It never changed. It only got worse as we got older. Dylan was not a bad kid at first, but he learned quickly. He learned that he could do no wrong. He learned that if he broke a vase, he could blame the cat or the wind or me, and they would believe him. He stopped trying in school because he didn't have to. If he got a C on a test, my father would call the school and yell at the teacher for making the test too hard. If he didn't make the varsity team, my mother would claim the coach was biased. They smoothed every road for him. They removed every rock from his path. They were crippling him, but they thought they were loving him. I, on the other hand, had to be perfect just to be considered average. I realized by middle school that my only way out of this house was my brain. I couldn't rely on my parents to pay for college. They had already started a business fund for Dylan, even though he had no business ideas. I knew I needed scholarships. I needed to be undeniable. I studied until my eyes burned. I joined the debate team because it taught me how to speak with authority, something I couldn't do at home. I joined the history club. I volunteered at the library. In my junior year of high school, I won the state debate championship. It was a huge deal. Hundreds of students competed. I had worked on my arguments for months. I had defeated the best speakers in the state. I stood on the stage, holding a golden trophy that was almost as big as me. The audience was clapping. I looked down at the front row where the parents were sitting. There were 2 empty seats. I knew they weren't coming. I had told them the date 3 times. I had written it on the family calendar in red marker. But that morning, Dylan had woken up with a stomach ache. He didn't have a fever. He wasn't throwing up. He just didn't want to go to school. My mother decided she needed to stay home to monitor him, and my father said he had to drive Dylan to the doctor if it got worse. "We are so proud of you, Amelia," my dad had said over the phone when I called them from the bus ride home. He didn't sound proud. He sounded bored. But poor Dylan is really suffering here. I could hear the TV in the background. I could hear Dylan laughing at a show. He wasn't suffering. He was winning. I placed the trophy on the mantelpiece in the living room when I got home. It was shiny and beautiful. It was proof that I was good at something. 2 days later, the trophy was gone. I found it in the garage in a cardboard box covered by an old towel. "Why is my trophy in the garage?" I asked my mother. She didn't look up from her phone. "It was taking up too much space, Amelia." And Dylan felt bad. "You know he struggles with his grades. We don't want to rub your success in his face. It's not kind." Not kind. It was not kind for me to succeed because it made my brother feel bad about his own laziness. That was the moment I stopped sharing my life with them. I went silent. I became a ghost in my own house. I stopped telling them about my grades. I stopped inviting them to events. I stopped expecting them to care. I built a wall around my heart. It was a thick wall made of cold stone. I hid my real self behind it. On the outside, I was the quiet, obedient daughter who did the dishes and never complained. On the inside, I was planning. I was saving money from tutoring other kids. I was researching colleges. I was dreaming of a life where I didn't have to shrink myself to make room for Dylan's ego. I thought I could just wait it out. I thought I just had to survive 1 more year of high school, and then I could leave. I would go to college, get a job, and never come back. I would be free. But I was wrong. I didn't know that Dylan's behavior was escalating. I didn't know that his entitlement was turning into something dangerous. And I didn't know that my parents were willing to sacrifice my entire future to protect him from the consequences of his own actions. The silence I had built was about to be broken. The invisible girl was about to be forced into the spotlight, in the worst possible way. It was a Tuesday in December. The air was crisp and cold, the kind of weather that usually made me feel awake and alive. But that day, I felt a knot of dread in my stomach. I didn't know why. It was just a feeling, a shadow passing over my heart. I stayed late at school for a student council meeting. I was the treasurer. I liked the work. It was organized, logical, and fair, everything my home life was not. By the time I walked out to the parking garage, it was nearly 5 o'clock. The sun had already set, and the garage was lit by buzzing yellow fluorescent lights. It was quiet. Most of the cars were gone. I walked toward my car, a beat-up sedan I had bought with my own tutoring money. My footsteps echoed on the concrete. Then I heard a sound. It was a wet, heavy thud, then a groan. I froze. The sounds were coming from the lower level, near the exit. I should have just gotten in my car. I should have driven away. But I recognized the voice. "Please stop," someone begged. It sounded like Ryan, a quiet boy from my chemistry class. Ryan was gentle. He played the cello. He never bothered anyone. Then I heard a laugh. A cruel, sharp laugh that made my blood turn to ice. It was Dylan. I dropped my bag and ran toward the sound. I rounded the concrete pillar and saw them. Ryan was on the ground, curled into a ball. His hands were covering his face, and blood was seeping through his fingers. He was shaking. Dylan was standing over him. He wasn't alone. 2 of his friends from the football team were there, watching and laughing. But Dylan was the one throwing the punches. His face was red, his eyes wild with a kind of sick excitement. He pulled his fist back to hit Ryan again. "Dylan. Stop," I screamed. My voice echoed through the garage like a gunshot. Dylan froze. He looked up at me. For a second he looked terrified. Then his eyes narrowed. He dropped his hand. "Go away, Amelia," he sneered. "This is none of your business." I didn't listen. I ran to Ryan. I knelt beside him on the dirty concrete. Ryan, can you hear me?" Ryan groaned. He moved his hands. His nose was broken. There was so much blood. It was on his shirt, on the ground, on my hands. "You're crazy," I whispered, looking up at my brother. "What is wrong with you? I'm calling the police." I reached for my phone. Dylan panicked. He lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. His grip was painful. "You are not calling anyone. You hear me? He started it. He insulted me." "He's on the ground, Dylan. Look at him," I yelled, yanking my arm back. Suddenly, a security guard's car turned the corner, lights flashing. The school had installed new cameras in the garage last month. They had seen everything. Dylan's friends ran. Dylan stood there, trapped. The security guard jumped out, shouting into his radio. An ambulance was called. The police arrived within 10 minutes. I gave my statement to the police officer. I told the truth. I told them what I saw. I told them Dylan was hitting Ryan while Ryan was on the ground. I didn't lie. I couldn't. Ryan was hurt. Dylan sat in the back of a police car, staring at me through the window. He didn't look sorry. He looked hateful. He looked like he wanted to kill me. The school principal suspended Dylan immediately pending an investigation. Because Dylan was a minor and it was a school fight, the police released him to our parents that night, but charges were likely going to be pressed. My father picked us up. The ride home was silent, deadly silent. I thought foolishly that this was it. I thought my parents would finally see. Dylan had beaten a boy so badly he needed an ambulance. There were cameras. There were witnesses. There was no way to hide this. But I underestimated Dylan, and I underestimated my parents' blindness. As soon as we walked into the house, Dylan collapsed onto the sofa and started to cry. It was a fake, theatrical cry, but to my parents, it was the sound of a wounded angel. He attacked me, Dylan sobbed, burying his face in his hands. Ryan, he's been bullying me for months. He said horrible things about you, Mom. He said things about our family. I tried to walk away, but he jumped me. I was just defending myself. I stood in the hallway, stunned. My mouth fell open. That is a lie, I said, my voice shaking. That is a complete lie. Ryan was on the ground. You were kicking him. I saw it. The cameras saw it. My mother turned on me. Her face was twisted with fury. How dare you, she hissed. How dare you take a stranger's side over your own brother? It's not about sides, Mom. It's about the truth. Ryan is in the hospital. Because he attacked your brother, my father roared. He slammed his hand on the table. Dylan was protecting this family's honor. And you told the police he was guilty. You betrayed him. I told them what I saw, I argued, tears stinging my eyes. You saw what you wanted to see because you're jealous, Dylan said from the couch. He looked up, his eyes dry now. He looked straight at me with a smirk that only I could see. Amelia has always hated me. She wants me to get in trouble. My parents looked at him, then at me. It took them less than a second to decide. They chose the lie. They wrapped their arms around Dylan. My mother kissed his head. My father patted his back. It's okay, son, my father said soothingly. We'll fix this. We won't let them ruin your future over a misunderstanding. Then he turned to me. His eyes were cold, dead things. You will go to the school tomorrow, he said. You will retract your statement. You will tell them you were confused. You will tell them Ryan started it. I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. No, I whispered. I won't do that. You will, he said, or you will regret it. I went to my room and locked the door. I stared at my hands. There was still a speck of Ryan's dry blood on my thumb. It was real. The violence was real. But in this house, the truth didn't matter. Only Dylan mattered. I realized then that I wasn't just invisible anymore. I was the enemy. The next 2 days were a blur of tension. The house felt like a bomb waiting to explode. My parents were on the phone constantly, with lawyers, with the school board, with other parents. I could hear them spinning the story. They were painting Dylan as the victim. They were saying Ryan was a troubled kid, a violent aggressor. They were destroying Ryan's reputation to save Dylan's. I went to school the next day, but I didn't retract my statement. I sat in the principal's office and told him again. Dylan attacked Ryan. The principal, Mr. Henderson, looked relieved. He had seen the footage, but having a family witness confirm it made the case airtight. Thank you for your honesty, Amelia, he said. I know this is hard. He didn't know the half of it. When I got home that afternoon, Christmas Eve, the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't just tense anymore, it was hostile. Dinner was set on the table. Roast chicken, potatoes, green beans. A festive meal for a family at war. My parents sat at opposite ends of the table. Dylan sat across from me. He was eating calmly, as if he hadn't sent a boy to the hospital 2 days ago. My father put down his fork. The sound of metal hitting china rang out in the quiet room. The school called, he said. I kept my eyes on my plate. Okay. Mr. Henderson said you refused to change your statement. In fact, you confirmed it. You gave them a written affidavit against your brother. I told the truth, I said, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking in my lap. The truth, my father laughed, a harsh, bark-like sound. The truth is what we say it is, Amelia. We are a family. We stand together. You have exposed us to liability. You have endangered Dylan's college prospects. Do you understand what you have done? Dylan endangered his own prospects when he assaulted someone, I said, finally looking up. My mother gasped, "Don't speak to your father like that." "We have a solution," my father said. He leaned forward. "You are going to fix this. After the holiday break, there is a school board hearing. You will attend, you will speak. You will say that you were emotional and confused, and that upon reflection, you realized Ryan struck first." "I won't," I said. "If you don't," my father said, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper, "then you are not going back to school." The words hung in the air. "What?" I asked. "You heard me. If you cannot support this family, you will not benefit from this family. We pay for your car, we pay for your clothes, we pay for your school fees and activities. If you do not apologize to Dylan and fix this mess, we're pulling you out." "You can't pull me out of school," I said. "I'm a senior. I'm on the debate team. I have exams." "We can withdraw you," my mother said coldly. "We can homeschool you, or we can just let you drop out. You're 18 in a few months. You can figure it out then. But until you apologize and do as you are told, you are grounded. Indefinitely. No phone, no car, no friends. No school." I looked at them. I really looked at them. They weren't bluffing. They were willing to burn my life to the ground just to keep Dylan warm. They would destroy my high school graduation, my records, my chances for college, just to force me into a lie. I looked at Dylan. He was smiling. He was enjoying this. He liked seeing me stripped of everything I had worked for. In that moment, something inside me snapped. But it wasn't a loud snap. It was a quiet, clean break. The tether that had bound me to them, the hope that they would one day love me or be fair, finally severed. I didn't feel sad anymore. I didn't feel angry. I felt clear. I needed to buy time. I needed them to think they had won so they would stop watching me. I took a deep breath. I lowered my eyes. I made my shoulders slump as if I was defeated. "All right," I said softly. My father blinked. He had expected a fight. He had expected tears. "All right, you win," I said. "I can't leave school. It's all I have. I'll do what you want." My mother let out a sigh of relief. Finally, some sense. "But I need time," I added. "I'm upset. Please just let me go to my room. I'll apologize to Dylan later when I'm ready." "Fine," my father said, leaning back. "You are grounded until you do. Go to your room." I stood up. I walked out of the dining room. I walked up the stairs. I didn't look back. I entered my room and closed the door. I didn't cry. I didn't throw myself on the bed. I moved with the precision of a soldier. I pulled my suitcase from the back of the closet. I didn't pack clothes first. I packed my life. I went to my desk drawer. I took out my birth certificate, my social security card, my passport, my bank book. The account was in my name, money I had earned, money they didn't know the total of. I took my hard drive with all my school essays and debate videos. I took my physical transcripts I had saved. I took my awards. They thought they were grounding me. They thought they were trapping me in this house. They didn't know that I wasn't planning on staying. They threatened to take my future. So I was going to leave and go find a new one. My room was dark. It was 2 a.m. on Christmas morning. The house was silent. My parents and Dylan were asleep, secure in their victory. They thought they had broken me. They thought I was lying in bed, crying, preparing to surrender. I was sitting on the floor of my closet, my laptop balanced on my knees, the screen dimmed to the lowest setting. I wasn't surrendering. I was fighting back. I had one lifeline, Rebecca. Rebecca was my former debate coach who had moved to Washington, D.C. to teach at Georgetown Preparatory School. She had always told me, "Amelia, you have a gift. If you ever need anything, call me." I had emailed her 3 hours ago, explaining everything. The fight, the lie, the ultimatum. I told her I was about to be pulled out of school and erased. She had replied 14 minutes later. "Send me your application. Tonight, we have a mid-year transfer opening for a scholarship student. It's a boarding position. If you get it, you leave immediately. Can you write the essay?" Could I write the essay? I had been writing this essay in my head for 10 years. I opened the application portal. The cursor blinked on the screen. The prompt was simple. Tell us about a challenge you have faced and how it shaped your character. I didn't write about a bad grade. I didn't write about a sports injury. I wrote about the silence. I typed fast, my fingers flying over the keys. I poured everything onto the digital page. I wrote about the empty seats at my competitions. I wrote about the trophy in the garage. I wrote about the pressure to be perfect so I wouldn't be a burden. I wrote about the glass child syndrome, looking through the healthy sibling to focus only on the one who demands attention. I wrote, I learned that my voice was the only thing I truly owned. They could take my car, my phone, and my freedom, but they could not take my truth. I am applying to this school not because I am running away from a challenge, but because I am running toward a place where truth matters. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be the person who stands up for the one on the ground, even when the whole room is telling me to look away. I read it over. It was raw. It was simple. It was the most honest thing I had ever written. I attached my transcripts. I attached the scanned copies of my awards. I attached the recommendation letter Rebecca had already written for me months ago, just in case. The clock on my laptop read 3:14 a.m. My heart was hammering against my ribs. If my father walked in right now, if he saw the screen, it would be over. He would smash the laptop. He would lock me in this room until I was 18. I took a deep breath. I hovered the mouse over the submit button. This was it, a quiet rebellion. No screaming, no fighting, just a click of a button. I clicked. The screen loaded, a spinning wheel. Application submitted. Thank you, Amelia. I closed the laptop. I hid it under a pile of sweaters in the back of the closet. I crawled into bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for the sun to come up. Christmas morning arrived with a gray, dull light. I went downstairs. The tree was lit. There were piles of gifts for Dylan. A new gaming console, designer sneakers, a watch. There were a few small boxes for me, pajamas, a gift card, perfume. Merry Christmas, my mother said, handing me a cup of coffee. She acted like everything was normal. Are you ready to apologize to your brother today? I'm thinking about what I want to say, I said. It wasn't a lie. I was thinking about exactly what I wanted to say. Good, my father said. Don't take too long. The school board meeting is in January. I sat on the sofa, watching Dylan tear open his gifts. He looked happy. He had won. He had gotten away with violence, and he had gotten the gifts. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I had snuck it back from the kitchen counter where my dad had left it. I pulled it out under the blanket, an email notification. It was from Georgetown Preparatory School. My hands shook. I tapped the screen. Dear Amelia, we have reviewed your application and the urgent recommendation from Miss Rebecca Sterling. The admissions committee was deeply moved by your essay and impressed by your academic record. We are pleased to offer you a full merit scholarship for the remainder of the academic year, continuing into your final semester. We have a dormitory room available immediately. Orientation for new transfer students begins on December 27th. Please confirm your acceptance by... I stopped reading. December 27th. That was in 2 days. I looked up. My father was laughing at something Dylan said. My mother was taking a picture of them. They had no idea. I looked back down at the phone. I hit reply. I accept. I put the phone back in my pocket. A warmth spread through my chest. It was the warmth of freedom. Amelia, my mother asked. Why are you smiling? I looked at her. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt powerful. I'm just thinking about the future, I said. Well, don't think too hard, Dylan joked. You're grounded, remember? I remember, I said. I remembered everything. And in 48 hours, I would be gone. The 48 hours after Christmas morning were the longest hours of my life. I was living 2 lives at the same time. On the outside, I was the defeated daughter. I was the girl who had been grounded. I was the sister who was expected to apologize. I walked around the house with my head down. I spoke softly. I did the dishes without being asked. My parents watched me with satisfaction. They thought their punishment was working. They thought they had crushed the rebellion out of me. See, my father said to my mother over breakfast on December 26th. She just needed a firm hand. She's calming down. She'll apologize to Dylan by New Year's, my mother replied, sipping her coffee. Then we can put this ugly business behind us and focus on Dylan's spring semester. I was standing right there, wiping the counter. They talked about me like I was a piece of furniture or a dog they were training. I didn't say a word. I just scrubbed the granite until it shined. Inside, I was screaming. My heart was racing so fast I thought they would hear it. Every time I went to my room, I wasn't sulking, I was working. I had to be strategic. I couldn't take everything. If I walked out with 3 suitcases, they would stop me. I had to pack only what mattered. I took the large duffel bag from the back of my closet, the one I used for debate tournaments. It was black and nondescript. I started with the essentials: underwear, socks, my 2 favorite sweaters, the blazer I wore when I won the state championship. It was my armor. I looked at my bookshelf. I wanted to take them all. My books were my friends. They were the only voices in this house that had ever been kind to me. But I couldn't take them, they were too heavy. I chose 3, a worn copy of Pride and Prejudice, my history textbook, and a book of poetry Rebecca had given me. I touched the spines of the others, whispering a silent goodbye. I packed my laptop, my hard drive, and the folder with my documents. I hid the bag under my bed, pushing it all the way against the wall behind a box of old shoes. The hardest part was the acting. That afternoon, Dylan came into the living room where I was reading. He sat down on the coffee table, right in front of me. He blocked my light. "You know you're going to have to say it eventually," he said. He had a smug look on his face. He was eating an apple, chewing loudly. "Say what?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "That you're sorry, that you lied, that I'm the victim." I looked at him. I looked at the bruise on his knuckle, the bruise he got from punching Ryan's face. "I'm thinking about what to say," I said. "Dad says if you don't do it well enough, he's going to take your car keys for good. Maybe give the car to me, I could use a spare." I felt a flash of rage, hot and sharp. But I swallowed it. I needed to be invisible for just 24 more hours. "We'll see," I said calmly. I stood up and walked away. "Don't walk away when I'm talking to you," he shouted. I kept walking. I went to the laundry room. I pretended to fold towels. My hands were shaking. Just one more day, I told myself. Just one more day. That night, I received a text from Rebecca. "The car will be there at 9 a.m. on the 27th. A black sedan. The driver's name is Thomas, be ready." 9 a.m. My parents usually slept until 10 o'clock during the holidays. Dylan slept until noon. I checked my alarm clock. I checked my bag. I checked my escape route. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed, listening to the house settle. I heard the wind outside. I heard the furnace click on and off. I said goodbye to the room. I said goodbye to the view from the window. I wasn't sad to leave the people, but I was sad to leave the only safety I had ever known. It was a cold safety, a lonely safety, but it was mine. Now I was stepping into the unknown. The morning of December 27th was gray and snowy. The house was dead silent. I woke up at 6 a.m. I dressed in my best clothes, a crisp white shirt, dark jeans, and my boots. I brushed my hair. I looked in the mirror. The girl staring back at me looked different. She looked older. She looked determined. I had one loose end to tie up. I needed to sign my withdrawal papers at the high school. The administration office was open for half a day during the winter break for record processing. I knew the secretary, Mrs. Higgins. She liked me. I needed to get my official file sealed and transferred so my parents couldn't block it later. I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. Went to the school to get some books from my locker for studying, be back soon. It was a risk. If they woke up, they might be angry I left the house while grounded. But I took the keys to my beat-up sedan and drove to the school. The school was mostly empty, but the gym was open for winter basketball practice. I could hear sneakers squeaking and balls bouncing. I walked into the main office. Mrs. Higgins was there sorting mail. "Amelia," she asked, surprised. "School is closed, honey. What are you doing here?" "I need to withdraw, Mrs. Higgins," I said. My voice was steady. "I'm transferring today," she blinked. "Transferring? Does your father know? I haven't received any paperwork." "I'm 18 in 3 months, Mrs. Higgins, but right now, I have an acceptance letter from Georgetown Prep. They have requested my file electronically. Can you please push the button to release it?" I showed her the email on my phone. Her eyes went wide. Georgetown Prep was prestigious. "Oh my," she whispered. "Well, if you have the acceptance, and you're sure." "I'm sure, please." "It's urgent." She typed on her computer. She clicked a few keys. "All right, it's sent. You're officially pending transfer." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Thank you." I turned to leave. I walked out into the hallway. And then I saw him. Dylan, he was walking out of the gym with his gym bag. He must have gotten a ride with a friend for practice. He saw me and stopped. His face twisted into a scowl. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "You're grounded. Dad's going to kill you for taking the car." "I'm leaving, Dylan," I said. "Leaving? Leaving where? The house?" He laughed. "You can't go anywhere. You have no money. You have nothing." "I'm withdrawing from school," I said. "I'm transferring." He stepped closer. He was big, taller than me by 6 inches. He used his size to intimidate everyone. "You can't transfer. Dad won't let you. You're going to stay here and fix my reputation." "Your reputation is broken because of your fists, not my words," I said. He grabbed my arm. His fingers dug into my bicep. It hurt. "You listen to me," he hissed. "You're coming home right now. You're going to write that apology letter, and you're going to tell the principal that you lied about the fight." "Let go of me," I said. "No, you're coming with me." He yanked me toward the exit. In the past, I would have gone limp. I would have let him drag me, but not today. Today, I was a scholarship student at Georgetown Prep. Today, I was free. I remembered the self-defense class I had taken secretly at the community center last summer. Rotate the wrist, step in, push. I twisted my arm violently against his thumb, his grip broke. I stepped in and shoved him hard in the chest with both hands. He wasn't expecting it. He stumbled back. He tripped over his own gym bag and fell hard onto the linoleum floor. The sound echoed in the hallway. The gym doors opened. The basketball team came out to see what the noise was. 10 guys. They saw Dylan on the floor. They saw me standing over him, tall and calm. Dylan scrambled up, his face red with humiliation. You crazy witch, I'll kill you." He lunged at me. "Mr. Fletcher," the voice boomed down the hall. It was Mr. Henderson, the principal. He had stepped out of his office when he heard the shout. Dylan froze. His fist was raised in the air. Mr. Henderson walked up to us. He looked at Dylan's raised fist. He looked at me. "Is there a problem here?" Mr. Henderson asked. "She attacked me," Dylan shouted, pointing at me. "She's crazy, she pushed me down." Mr. Henderson looked at the basketball players. "Did she attack him?" One of the players, a guy named Mike who had seen the whole thing, shook his head. "No, sir, he grabbed her, she just broke away and he tripped." Dylan turned pale. The lie didn't work. The audience wasn't his parents. I looked at Mr. Henderson. "I came to process my withdrawal papers, sir. I'm transferring to Georgetown Prep. My brother was trying to physically stop me from leaving the building." Mr. Henderson looked at me with new respect. He looked at Dylan with disgust. "Georgetown Prep?" Mr. Henderson asked. "Yes, sir, I leave today." "Well," Mr. Henderson said, stepping between me and Dylan. "Congratulations, Amelia. That is an incredible opportunity." He turned to Dylan. "Dylan, get your bag and get out of my school. You are still suspended. If I see you on campus again before the hearing, I will have you arrested for trespassing." Dylan looked around. The basketball team was watching. They weren't laughing with him. They were looking at him like he was pathetic. He had tried to bully his sister and got humiliated. I walked past him. I didn't look down. I looked straight ahead. As I walked toward the double doors, I heard a sound. Clap, clap, clap. I turned. It was Mike. Then another player joined in, then Mrs. Higgins from the office doorway. They were clapping. They knew. Everyone knew who Dylan was. Everyone knew what I had dealt with. They were cheering for my escape. I pushed the doors open and walked into the cold air. I didn't look back at Dylan. He was part of my past now. I drove home quickly. I parked the car in the driveway and left the keys on the driver's seat. I wouldn't need them anymore. I ran upstairs. It was 8:45 a.m. The house was stirring. I heard my father coughing in the bedroom. I grabbed my duffel bag from under the bed. I put on my coat. I took one last look at my room, the empty shelves, the bare desk. It looked like a hotel room now, impersonal and cold. I walked downstairs. My mother was in the kitchen, wearing her robe. She was making coffee. She looked at me, then at the duffel bag in my hand. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Where are you going with that bag?" "I'm leaving, Mom," I said. She laughed nervously. "Leaving? You're grounded, Amelia. Put the bag away and set the table. Dylan will be up soon and he'll want pancakes." "I'm not making pancakes for Dylan," I said. "I'm not doing anything for Dylan ever again." My father walked into the kitchen. He saw the bag, his face darkened. "What is this drama?" he grumbled. "Amelia, take that bag upstairs immediately." "No," I said. "Excuse me." My father stepped closer. He was a big man, used to being obeyed. I said, "Take it upstairs. You are not leaving this house." "I am," I said. "I have been accepted to Georgetown Preparatory School on a full scholarship. I start immediately." My parents froze. They looked at each other. "That's impossible," my mother said. "We didn't pay for any application. We didn't sign anything." "I did it myself," I said. "I got a waiver. I got a recommendation. It's done." "You can't go," my father shouted. "You are a minor. I will call the police. I will report you as a runaway." "I'm 17 and a half," I said calmly. "And I have a documented history of Dylan's violence and your neglect. If you call the police, I will show them the photos of Ryan. I will show them the text messages where you threatened to pull me out of school to cover up a crime. I don't think you want the police involved, Dad." My father's face turned purple. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He knew I had him. He knew that if the police looked too closely at this family, his perfect image would shatter. Just then, a sleek black sedan pulled into the driveway. It honked once. That's my ride, I said. Amelia, please, my mother said. Her voice changed. It wasn't angry anymore, it was desperate. You can't just leave us. Who will? Who will help with the house? What about the family? You have your family, I said. You have Dylan. He's the golden boy, remember? He can help you. He needs us, she cried. And I needed you, I said softly. But you weren't there. I opened the front door. The cold air hit my face. It felt wonderful. If you walk out that door, my father yelled, don't you ever come back. You are cut off, you hear me? Not a penny. I turned one last time. I looked at the beautiful house that had been a prison. I don't want your money, I said. I just want a life. I walked down the steps. The snow crunched under my boots. The driver, a kind-looking man in a uniform, opened the back door for me. He took my duffel bag. Miss Fletcher? He asked. Yes, I said. That's me. I got in. The leather seats were warm. The car smelled like mint and leather. As we pulled away, I saw the curtain in the living room move. Dylan was watching. I saw his face. He looked small. He looked scared. For the first time, he realized that without his punching bag, he was all alone with them. I didn't wave. I faced forward. To Georgetown, miss? The driver asked. Yes, I said. To Georgetown. The drive took 4 hours. I watched the landscape change. The suburbs gave way to the highway, then to the historic streets of the new city. When we pulled up to the school, I gasped. It looked like a castle. Red brick buildings, tall white columns, huge oak trees covered in snow. It was beautiful. Rebecca was waiting for me at the front gate. She was wearing a thick wool coat and a bright red scarf. When I got out of the car, she didn't say anything. She just hugged me. She hugged me tight like a mother should. You made it, she whispered into my hair. I made it, I said. I felt tears prick my eyes. I hadn't cried when my father threatened me. I hadn't cried when Dylan attacked me. But standing there, being held by someone who actually saw me, the wall finally cracked. Welcome home, Amelia, she said. She led me to my dorm. It was small, but it was mine. I had a roommate named Sarah who was studying biology. She had already put a Welcome Amelia sign on my desk. That night, I lay in my narrow twin bed. The room was quiet, but it wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of my parents' house. It was a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a library, full of potential. I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to live. 3 months passed. My life at Georgetown Prep was hard, but it was a good kind of hard. The classes were difficult. The expectations were high. But for the first time, my hard work was rewarded. I joined the debate team. We won our first regional tournament. The coach didn't treat me like an extra, he made me the captain. I made friends, real friends. Friends who liked me for my mind, not for what I could do for them. I didn't answer my phone. My parents called. They left voicemails. First, the voicemails were angry. You ungrateful girl. Come home immediately. Then they were bargaining. We will give you your car back if you come home for Easter. Then they were desperate. Please pick up. We need to talk. I didn't listen to them. I deleted them. Then, in April, the news broke. I was sitting in the cafeteria eating lunch with Sarah when my phone buzzed with a news alert from my hometown paper. I still followed the local news. The headline made my breath catch. Local high school student expelled after assaulting teacher. I clicked the link. There was no photo of the student because he was a minor, but the name was in the article. Dylan Fletcher. I read the article. My hands shook, not with fear, but with shock at the magnitude of it. After I left, Dylan had spiraled. Without me there to blame, without me there to absorb the tension in the house, he had become more volatile. His grades tanked. My parents had pressured the school to keep him, threatening lawsuits, but they couldn't cover this up. Dylan had failed a math test. He had screamed at the teacher, Mrs. Gable, a sweet older woman. When she tried to calm him down, he shoved a desk at her. It hit her leg and broke her ankle. It happened in front of 20 witnesses. There was no he started it. There was no Amelia is lying. There were 20 students and a security camera. He was expelled immediately. The teacher was pressing charges for assault. The school district was suing my parents for damages. My phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. I debated ignoring it. But I knew this was the end. I wanted to hear it. I answered. Hello, Amelia. My mother sounded hysterical. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. You have to come home. You have to help us. Help you with what? I asked calmly. Dylan. It's a disaster. They took him to the juvenile detention center. We need character witnesses. We need you to tell the judge that he's a good boy, that he's just stressed. You have to tell them that you provoked him in the past and it made him unstable. You have to take some of the blame, Amelia. It's the only way to save him. I sat there in the cafeteria. The sun was streaming through the window. My friends were laughing at a joke nearby. No, I said. What, did you hear me? Your brother is in jail. I heard you, I said, but I'm not coming and I'm not lying. How can you be so selfish? She screamed. We are your family. You made your choice, I said. You chose him every single time. You protected him from consequences for his entire life. You taught him that he could hurt people and get away with it. You didn't save him, Mom. You destroyed him. This is your fault. Amelia, please, we'll lose everything, the legal fees. The lawsuit. I have a history exam tomorrow, I said. I have to study. Don't you hang up on. I hung up. I blocked the number. Then I blocked my father's number. Then I blocked the house number. I put the phone down on the table. Everything okay? Sarah asked, looking concerned. I looked at her. I felt lighter than air. The heavy weight I had been carrying for 18 years, the guilt, the obligation, the fear was gone. Yes, I said. Everything is perfect. Dylan went to juvenile detention for 6 months. My parents spent their savings on lawyers. They had to sell the big house to pay the settlement to Mrs. Gable. They moved into a small apartment. Their reputation in the town was ruined. The perfect family was exposed as a fraud. I watched it all from a distance, like watching a storm on a radar screen. It couldn't touch me anymore. I was safe. 7 years later, I stood on the balcony of my apartment. It was a beautiful evening in Washington, D.C. The city lights were twinkling below me. My apartment had floor-to-ceiling glass windows. I loved the glass. I loved the transparency. I had nothing to hide. I was 25 years old. I had graduated from Georgetown University at the top of my class. I was now working as a senior policy advisor for education reform. My job was to help kids who were falling through the cracks, kids who were invisible like I used to be. I took a sip of tea. It was quiet. My phone buzzed on the table. It was December 24th, Christmas Eve. It was a text from an unknown number. I knew who it was. It was Dylan. Merry Christmas, sis. Mom and Dad are asking about you. We're at the new place. It's small. Dad's sick. Look, I'm sorry about the past. Can you just call? Can you send some money? We're really struggling. I looked at the message. I thought about the little girl who ate dry cereal on her birthday. I thought about the girl who was told she couldn't go to school. I thought about the girl who was offered up as a sacrifice to save her brother's ego. I didn't feel hate. I didn't feel anger. I just felt detached. They hadn't changed. They still wanted something. They still needed me to fix their mess. I didn't reply. I didn't block the number. I just deleted the message. I didn't need their apology, and I didn't owe them my peace. I turned around and walked back into my living room. My fiancé, Mark, was there. He was putting the star on our Christmas tree. Mark was kind. He was gentle. He listened when I spoke. He loved me not for what I did, but for who I was. Who was that? He asked. Nobody, I said with a smile. Just Spam. I walked over to him and kissed his cheek. Ready for dinner? He asked. I made your favorite. I'm ready, I said. I looked around my life. I had built this. Every book on the shelf, every chair, every moment of peace, I had earned it. I had walked through the fire to get here. I realized that family isn't just blood. Family is the people who respect you. Family is the people who protect you. I had found my family. And more importantly, I had found myself. Peace wasn't something that was given to me. It was something I had to take. And I would never let it go. If my story echoes something in your life, if you have ever felt invisible in your own home, or if you are carrying the weight of a family that refuses to see you, please know that you are not alone. You are not an extra in their movie. You are the protagonist of your own. Hit like if you believe in the power of walking away. Share this story with someone who needs the courage to choose themselves. And subscribe